No, it just where we can. Here we go.
Jim, I didn't even have it. I think it was in the fireplace.
Jeff, I'm not kidding you. My stack is this high, and I have 2 bags full of stuff. I'm charging it.
All right, it is 7 o'clock. Good evening, everyone. It's Bridgewater Township Zoning Board of Adjustment, Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6. Specifically, on January 15th, 2025, proper notice was sent to the Courier News and the Star Ledger, filed with the clerk of the Township of Bridgewater, and posted on the Municipal Bulletin Board. Please be aware of the Zoning Board of Adjustment policy for public hearings. No new applications will be heard after 9:30 p.m., and no new testimony will be taken after 10 p.m. If you're able, please rise for the salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, buddy. All right. Hi there, Nancy. Can you give it a roll call, please?
Good evening. Chairman Foose.
Here.
Mr. Wadley.
Here.
Mrs. Amin.
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney.
Here.
Mr. Fresco.
Yes, here.
Mr. Bongiorno.
Here.
Mr. Gajewski. Mr. Gajewski just notified me he will be absent. Sorry. Mr. Seacat.
Here.
Mr. Kulak.
Here.
Mr. Vesio.
Here.
Mr. Gabbett. Mr. Burr. Ms. Sarmad.
Here.
You have a quorum. You can proceed.
All right, thank you, Nancy. Going to open up the meeting to members of the public that would like to speak on any land use issue which is not on our agenda this evening. Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion. We have no minutes for approval tonight. We have one resolution. That's 1397 Coriel Drive, O'Brien. Looking for comments and changes from the board, please.
I have a couple of short ones here. On
Please.
page 4, paragraph 11, the reference to Ms. Dar should be to Mr. Manio. And on page 5, where it's paragraph 15, second line says, finds the property is exceptionally undersized with a D. And the R20 zone requires a minimum lot size of 24,000 square feet for a corner lot, not just in general. All right.
All right, any other changes?
I move with the changes.
All right, there was Mr. Wiley. Mr. Bongiorno's the second.
Chairman Foose.
Yes.
Mr. Wadley.
Yes.
Mrs. Amin.
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney.
I don't think I'm eligible, Nancy.
Mr. Fresco.
Yes.
Mr. Bongiorno.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
One more, sorry, Mr. Chairman. Mr.
Seacat?
Seacat needs to.
Yes.
All right, very good. We have 2 land development applications tonight. We have St. Bernard's, and we also have 821. And Rich, why don't you take us through what happened with 821, the last-minute cancellation?
So 821 notified us that they had some witness unavailability issues and prep issues based on some reports that they now have from us. So they've requested that the matter be adjourned to the March 11th hearing.
Okay. How about the rest of our roster?
So let me just make that announcement to anyone in the public here who is here for 821 Bridgewater LLC and Jewish Community Center application that's not being heard this evening. Instead, that'll be heard on March 11th at 7 p.m. in this room. There'll be no further notices from the applicant. Okay? Then, with respect to other matters that the board is carrying, we have Belly Holdings will be heard on March 11th, as will the Starbucks application. On March 25th, we have 1200 Route 22 Land Investors. Also, March 25th, Bridgewater Self-Storage. Also, March 25th, Germunk Oil. April 8th will be the continuation for Paul Miller Auto Group. Also on April 8th will be the continuation for Visions and Pathways. And on April 22nd will be first hearing for Rockland APV Bridgewater Energy.
All right. Real quick, Rich, is there anything we can do to an applicant that comes multiple meetings and cancels within 36 hours? Something like, a penalty of, X amount given to the shade board, given to some beneficial use that, this board is full of volunteers. We made the time to be here. Nancy took the time to make packets. Our township drove them around, delivered them. What can we do?
Yeah,
in this
there's
situation?
really nothing that you can do. I mean, they've extended time in which the board can act. In the absence of an ordinance that would give some authority to do something like that, the board on its own, my opinion, you really couldn't do that.
Would you continue to look into that?
I will, yes.
Maybe find another town that has gone around this MLUL issue because, frankly, I'm a little annoyed.
Yeah.
But with that said, I don't want to
Sure.
prejudice anyone against them. So thank you for that.
Okay.
And for the record, we also, Mr. Sweeney and I had that frustration a couple of meetings ago, too.
Okay. All right, let's move on. We have the case St. Bernard's. It's a mausoleum case. Let me find the address here. 551 Route 28.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Michael Ligarano, Norris and Laughlin, appearing for the applicant.
Could you spell your last name for us?
Ligrano.
N-O. All right, and we have one board member who just wants to put on the record that they,
I've been a 30-year member of the church. You are aware of that. Monsignor let you know. And for the record, I have no financial interest with the church, and I have no trouble, if you don't, with hearing the case.
No problem with that at all, sir.
okay, you're comfortable, Mr. Widely, continuing on the board?
Can I ask him a couple questions? So 30-year member, you're a member of the church?
I've been going there for 30 years.
Yeah, I'm going to suggest that you recuse.
You want me to?
Sorry, yes. I just think as a member of the applicant's company, you should recuse.
Okay.
For that reason alone.
It's your call.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, good seeing you, Jim.
So that raises the question of how many
Yeah.
people we have qualified to testify.
We have a bunch of
Yeah.
people here today. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 8 people, yes. So we can get you 7.
Perfect.
Right?
Thank you very much.
Was there a prior hearing on this? No. This is the first one, right? Yeah, so we have 7.
Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we previously provided to the board secretary proof of publication and notice, and I believe the board has jurisdiction to proceed to hear our application this evening.
Yes, let me just confirm, I did review the notice. It was in proper form. It was served by certified mail on the 200-foot list on time and published timely, so the board does have jurisdiction.
Thank you, sir. If I may?
Yeah, if you want to swear all your witnesses in, we can keep the pace.
It's fine with me.
All right.
Kevin Walsh, will you please go? Kevin Fisher, please come forward. Noah Ramirez, please come forward. John Berry, please come forward. And James Madison, please come forward.
Famous person. All right.
If I sit?
Yes, sir.
If the board wouldn't mind if I could sit, I think my voice is a little weak tonight.
Please get comfortable.
Thank you.
Would you all raise your right hands, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you'll give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. And just my left to right, just your names for the record, please.
Camilo Ramirez, Camilo, last name Ramirez. I am the cemetery director.
Sorry, can you give me your last name again?
Ramirez.
Thank you.
John Barry, Barree, planner.
Kevin Fisher, Fisher, Northeast Mausoleum Builder.
Yep, I'm good then.
William Burr, Zoning Board Engineer.
Catherine Sarmad, Board Planner.
Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Chairman, would you like to blow up on the experts at the same time?
No, we'll do it when they come up. Yeah.
Our first witness will be Mr. Fisher. Mr. Fisher?
Thanks for having us tonight, Board. My name's Kev. Sorry.
Mr. Fisher, you
Myself, I'm a business partner in Northeast Mausoleum.
Hold the microphone close.
Sure. My name's
Much
Kevin
better.
Fisher. I'm a 50% partner of Northeast Mausoleum.
So you're the contractor that would actually build the mausoleum moving forward, correct?
That's correct.
So you're familiar with this design, plans, what it's going to look like for the interior?
Yes.
Did you prepare any exhibits that would help you make your presentation?
I have a rendering and a floor plan.
Right there?
Yes, yeah, that's a rendering of the rear view of the
So
building.
let's go with A1 on your rendering, all right? So an architect's rendering, okay? And is there an A2 you have also? Or we just mark it now?
A2, which is A1, is the floor plan, which is basically the outside dimensions and all
have
the
that?
interior hallways.
No? Okay, so A2 is the floor plan?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so yeah, would you just mark each one, the first one, the rendering A1 and the floor plan A2 with today's date, please?
That's the only two displays that I need to use.
Okay.
And these were prepared under your direct supervision?
Yes, they were.
Could you describe them to the board, please?
Well, the first one is a rendering, which is the architect's visual concept of the building, the mausoleum building itself. This is very similar to what's out there. There's several mausoleum buildings there already, so the colors are going to match the existing building, and the exterior look is very much like what is existing already. These exterior views here, this is all granite veneer, which is everything is a granite finish, and all entranceways are glazed storefront entranceways like you'd see in most stores and storefronts. I can go through the whole structure of the building, or?
Basically, I think you should describe the interior, please.
Okay.
Hey, before you do that, could I interrupt you for one moment? I was under the impression that we're talking about an addition to the rear of an existing mausoleum. Is that correct, or is there more to it than that?
Yes, you are.
So the front of that building, as it's shown there, is going to be pretty much the same as it is today?
Exactly.
Thank you. Okay.
Go ahead, please describe the interior.
The interior of the building, this is the floor plan of the project. Can you see it from all the way over there? Okay. And this rear view is facing the country club that is behind, the golf course or country club. And this is an existing building. We're connecting to behind the existing building that's within the cemetery. And you'll have three main hallways. You have one horizontal hallway and two vertical hallways here. These section here is all the concrete structure, which is all like shelving. It's concrete, reinforced concrete shelving for full-body casket spaces. Within this building, there is 1,200 casket spaces, and there'll be over 800 cremation spaces. And a mausoleum doesn't bring in any more business. It's just an option for the consumer, the community, if they want to be buried in the ground or they want to be above ground. And I don't know if you've ever been in St. Bernard Cemetery, but there's a lot of people inside the existing buildings, and there's a lot of activity there within the people visiting and coming in throughout. So this is just another alternative for them.
Speaking of activity, is there any plan for any office space in the addition?
No, there's no office space. There's a very tiny electrical room. There's no new electrical service within this project. We're just tapping into off the existing building. There's very minimal lighting and heating for this mausoleum project.
How about on the exterior lighting? Is there exterior lighting?
There is no exterior lighting. No, the cemetery hours in the spring and summer are 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., and at winter and fall is 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. I'm sorry, yeah, sunlight basically, sun up to sun.
I'm sorry, give me those again. Winter,
It's open later in the spring and summer till 7 p.m. Sorry, until 4 p.m. in the fall and the winter. So the cemetery's locked up at the main entrance there, so there's no in and out at that time.
We're having the operations director testify in a few minutes to go through more detail on the operations. That's all the direct I have for this witness, Mr. Chairman.
All right, board questions. Please, Mrs. Amin.
On the floor plan,
Yes.
okay, you're showing 3 sections. Which one is the addition that you're adding on? The left side or this? Where is the existing part?
Might be easier if we make reference in advance to the site plan, which
Yeah.
where I'm pointing, we'll have it testified to by the engineer that this is true.
Okay,
On
so
the
this,
site plan on file, this is the expansion, these are the existing buildings.
so the whole thing is addition,
This is all an addition.
3 sections,
It's actually 4 sections of crypts.
4 sections.
One
Okay.
building.
Now, what will that 4 sections be used for? Like, I mean,
These sections here, this is the concrete shelving for where the
Oh,
caskets
yeah.
go, where these lines across here are.
The same as here. This here is
The carpeted hallway, this is the carpeted hallway, and this here. is the
okay,
carpeted hallway.
okay.
These are entranceways on the sides, and these here.
So, any given time, how many people occupy
Yes.
that space?
A2.
No people, no office, nothing? No office,
No,
nothing?
it's really just for visitation, just like you would go to an exterior cemetery to a tombstone. It would be the same thing, but it's without the weather conditions, so they can go inside to pay their respect.
Technically, it's just for the bodies, dead bodies.
This building, the total square footage of this building is just over 7,000 square feet. 1/3 of that is the hallway space, and the 2/3 is the concrete crypts where the caskets would be placed.
What's the height of the building?
It's between 18 and 19 feet. It's just over 18 feet.
And one question about the color. You testified it is the same color, the addition is the same, exact same color as the existing structure?
As much as you can over time.
Right.
When you quarry stone from Italy at
Right.
one time and the next, it's a little different.
Sure, right. It's not that this is gray and that's taupe.
No, it
or-
would be the same consistency of the colors that's existing, yes.
Right.
Yes, where Monsignor would not be too happy.
Yeah.
Any other board questions? Board professionals, please.
Just 2 quick questions, Mr. Chairman. As far as capacity of the addition or the new space, are you essentially doubling what's there now? Or is this laid out more efficiently than the existing building?
Minor phase to what's existing within that cemetery. They have several mausoleum buildings within that
But
property.
I'm just talking about the building that exists today that you're adding on to.
I
You know, do you know what the capacity is?
At crypt-wise, it's
curious.
probably pretty close
Okay,
in number-wise, I would think.
okay.
Yeah.
And the addition is not going to be interconnected to the main part of the building? These will have new exterior entrances? There won't
You
be
are
any
correct.
interior
It will not,
connection,
you
right?
cannot enter the existing and come into the.
But the buildings will be
It would be
connected?
different
It'll appear to be one building?
You would park,
functionally-
you would walk down the concrete walkways and then come in
Got
the
it.
rear entranceways, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You're good. All right, thank you. Members of the public, questions on Mr. Fisher's testimony? All right, thank you, sir.
Next, Mr. Chairman, if you call Mr. Ramirez, please.
All right.
Operator of the cemetery parish.
Good evening.
So who are you employed by, sir?
St. Bernard Church.
What do you do there?
I am the cemetery director as well as the maintenance, facility maintenance.
How long have you been there, sir, in that capacity?
The church has 7 years, the cemetery 3 years.
So you're familiar with the operation of the mausoleum and the cemetery?
That is correct.
On a day-to-day basis, you're there?
Correct.
Can you tell me, answer the question about the expansion? How major of an expansion in terms of crypts compared to what's there now is this?
Right now, the building, the first building that we have, the existing building, we hold in about 700 crypts. It's a little bit smaller in capacity than this one that is about 1,200 crypts.
And let's make it clear, what are the hours of operation of the mausoleum?
Spring and summer, 7 to 7. Fall and winter, 7 to 4.
Are there any restrooms in the expansion?
No, sir.
How about the exterior lighting? Is there any exterior lighting?
No.
How many employees are currently dedicated full-time to the cemetery?
We have a full-time and a part-time employee.
And will this expansion dictate the increase in the employees of the facility?
No.
How about parking? Have you ever experienced any problems with parking, overparking
No, never.
And is it anticipated that this expansion will trigger the need for additional parking?
No, not at all.
There's no restrooms that are set up in the facility?
That is correct. Negative.
And do you know why this area was picked to put the mausoleum there?
It was the location for the space. It will actually support the amount of crypts that we have. Plus, it will be not a single addition. It will be just addition to the first building, like a separate. It's not going to be a separate building. It's just going to be addition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all the direct I have of this witness.
All right, board questions, please?
I do. You mentioned it's going to house 1,200 or so caskets. Barring a plague, essentially, how long would it take to fill the building before you would need another one? Under normal circumstances.
If we talk about the last edition that we had, it was about 800 crypts. It took about 14 years.
What else?
And when you have a funeral burial service that occurs, I guess you have the funeral procession that arrives.
Correct.
Is this at all reducing parking capacity for a funeral
Not
procession?
really. The service, it normally takes about 15, 20 minutes. Basically, it depends on the service. It's minimum what we have on parking.
Would you increase the number of burials you would have at one time by adding this crypt to your
No.
cemetery? Okay. All right, thank you.
All right. Board professionals.
Have you had any issues with, I know that we mentioned there's no parking on the site, no formal parking areas on the site. Have you ever had any issues with, a very popular time of the day or a very well-attended funeral where there was parking or overflow onto the roadway?
No, never.
Okay. It appears from the aerial photography that there are areas on the other side of the existing buildings that's open land. I know you'd mentioned that this is essentially a building addition. Is there any reason, or did you look into the other side, or is that appropriated for any other use?
Yeah, we're currently reserving that for graves purposes.
Okay, so
'Cause that will be the only section that we have left in the cemetery for graves.
okay, so it's appropriated for
Correct.
in-ground burials. Okay, that's all I have for this witness.
All right, thank you.
One question, Mr. Ramirez, as it relates to drainage issues. Are you aware of any existing drainage issues related to the existing building or the building next door that remain unresolved?
Now that I know, nothing related with this.
Very good. Thank you.
Did you get an answer on that? What's that? Did you get an answer on that?
I was told their engineer will address it.
All right, I still think it's interesting that this gentleman's been there for 7 years.
No.
All right. Yeah, that was easy. All right, members of the public, questions for Mr. Ramirez? All right, seeing none, your next witness, please.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think you're wise about that answer.
Yeah.
As the engineer will testify, we did have an objector come to the hearing that caused it. We don't believe we really are causing any issues there, but as the engineer will testify, we are working with them to mitigate whatever may be there.
Okay,
And this project has nothing to do with it, because work doesn't kill it.
understood.
In terms of the golf course, they had a concern which we've addressed, which the engineer will address.
Okay, thank you.
May I call Mr. Mattson, please? Mr. Mattson, do you hold any particular licenses in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, I do. I'm a licensed professional engineer.
Have you testified before boards of this character in the past?
Yes, I have. I've actually appeared before this board on several occasions several years ago.
You offered the gentleman as a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. We accept him as an engineer. Thank you. You're familiar with the project?
Yes, I am.
And did you prepare the site plans that were submitted as part of the project?
Yes, I did.
You're familiar with this? Sorry.
Our office.
And you've actually been on site? Once I asked the engineer that, you hadn't been on site, which is pretty embarrassing. So you've actually been there. Now we have exhibits up there. We have a board over here. We requested the A3. Could you describe what A3
3 is a lot grading plan that shows the proposed addition in relation to the existing mausoleums. This darker area on the drawing here is the actual proposed addition.
Mr. Mattson, could you get that microphone? Could you get that microphone? Yeah, thank you.
Better?
Perfect.
Yeah.
And this is identical to the sheet that's actually on file and marked as such as part of the formal site plan, correct?
Yes, it is.
Have this marked as A2, please.
Yep, with today's date, please.
You're also familiar with the township's land use ordinance and zoning ordinances pertaining to the property, correct?
Yes, I am.
And you had a chance and opportunity to review the reports that were submitted in October by the township engineer and planner with respect to the property.
Yes, I have.
Based upon your expertise, your familiarity with the site plan and zoning ordinance, you walk the board please through exactly what we're doing on the property from an engineering standpoint.
Well, obviously, first thing, they're building an addition that backs up to one of the existing mausoleums on the property. Stormwater runoff will be collected from the roofed area as well as the sidewalks between the two buildings. We have proposed several dry wells to capture the runoff and actually overflow any excess. That was one of the concerns the Barton Valley Country Club had. And they've asked us to relocate the discharge, which is actually it's shown on the plans that you have in front of you. They would like it to be moved further north, as I say, which is what we did. So it no longer would impact the green that's opposite the mausoleums.
And that's already shown on this plan?
Yes.
Okay.
That's really about it.
Now, the chairman mentioned and the engineer mentioned the possibility of water runoff to an adjoining property. I think it's Avalon. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I am. I'm actually meeting with the Avalon contractor tomorrow to get a better understanding of where we may be able to discharge runoff.
The runoff, if it's there and impacting it, would that come from the expansion, or where would that come from?
That actually comes from the southerly side of the existing mausoleum. If you look at the plan, you can see the topography is such that water falling in that area just drains down onto Avalon's property.
So in your opinion professionally, this expansion would not exacerbate any problem that may exist out of the Avalon property, correct?
We're actually 75 feet away from that location.
Again, you're familiar with the report that was prepared and submitted to the board in October, correct?
Yes.
An incident issue raised on page 7 with respect to the hillside development plan. Do you have any comment on that professionally? I believe it's page 7. The comment was that if feasible, is that the on top of the applicant that's tree removal, excuse me, page 4. The question is whether we have complied with the hillside development requirements as they exist in the township ordinances. Do you have any opinion with respect to whether we need to do that?
The chart on sheet 4 as well as sheet 2.
Showing compliance?
Yes.
And with respect to trees, there's an issue as to whether it's feasible to put trees, reaching an opinion with respect to that comment.
I don't know any areas specifically where we could place trees, but on a site of 16 acres, you should be able to find some areas to satisfy the requirements.
All right, speaking to those 7 trees that are going to be removed, we don't have to plant like-in-kind trees, but I do think there should be planting somewhere on the 16 acres that reflect a replacement of those 7 trees. Yeah, no problem.
I believe we do show a tree planting.
Okay.
The question that was raised in the report was why there are no trees along the front of the property.
Right.
The answer to that question is you probably could put trees there, but if I may, I can bring Mr. Ramirez back up. People like to drive by
how many years has this been in operation again?
20, how long have you been there, forever?
Okay,
So we're not opposed to making plantings throughout the rest of the property.
right,
That particular location, it has an aesthetic problem.
okay. Why don't we open up the board questions, and then we'll get to our professionals. We'll hear what they have to say on that.
You did say that you were familiar with all the township ordinances?
I'm aware that there are ordinances. I couldn't cite specific numbers.
I'm just was questioning whether you could specify which variances this application was requesting.
Certainly, I guess the main variance would be the rear yard setback to the new mausoleum. We are showing the nearest corner of the building to be 41 and change from the property line, where 150 feet is required.
Is that the only one?
Yes. Well, there's also the use variance.
Yeah, there's a D3, which is what, yeah.
It's on the lot, and we don't meet all the specific conditions of the permissible use by violating the side yard. We're in compliance with the side yard movement plan.
Two variances, use variance and rear setback.
Yes, and the ordinance in, the planner can correct me, and the engineer, from our table that we have in our, actually, from the report, shows the required minimum yard setback, 75 to 100 feet. Combine it, the existing is 82 before we did the construction, as the gentleman's testified, with expansion, we would bring it to 41.64 feet. Show them where it is, please.
It's from this upper corner of the building to the property line to the right.
So the variance is triggered because we don't meet the conditions of permissible conditional use, because we violate the side yard.
Rear yard.
Rear yard. There was also debate what was a rear yard and a front yard with this. And without getting into staff was very helpful for us going back through all the resolutions, figuring out how it was treated over the course of the years.
Could you address item 5 on page 7?
Regarding relocation of the mausoleum, I think as Mr. Ramirez had testified, there really isn't any available space. This area across from the mausoleums that appears to be open is being saved for the in-ground burial.
So I guess what I'm hearing is that you won't be coming back in a couple of years asking for additional variances for another building.
Well, we can't promise that. A misrepresentation of the board, you never know. But I can tell you, having been general counsel for the diocese, even my own, some people still prefer traditional burials. Some folks are okay with the crypt. So we have to leave space between the cemeteries for the one kids.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, board professionals, please.
Yes, Ms. Barry, could you please come forward?
Oh, no, we have board professionals and members of the public. Nope, no problem.
Just a couple of questions for Mr. Madsen. So Jim, from a environmental constraint perspective, I know we have a creek that runs along the rear of the property onto the golf course. Any issues from a wetland, flood hazard area, any constraints that the board needs to be aware of that this may impact?
You know, looking at the NJ GeoWeb, there are no wetlands shown on the property. As you said, Peters Brook, a tributary to Peters Brook, flows through our property onto the golf course there, and that's noted as a freshwater non-trout 2.
So it would have a minimal riparian buffer? Okay. So in other words, no impact to any constraints, correct?
We're
Okay.
actually 15 foot above the stream, and at least, I think, 75, 80 feet away from it.
Okay.
At its nearest point.
And your testimony was that you complied with the township's hillside development ordinance?
I thought we had, yes.
And along those lines, the 30% slopes, the steep or the critical slopes, there will be no disturbance in those areas, correct?
That's correct. The actual disturbance, I think, that you were referring to in your memo was 29% slope.
And those moderate slopes that range from 11 to 29, would it be fair to say that, and I'm talking about the slopes immediately behind the existing building where the new addition is proposed, would it be fair to say they were altered in any way during construction of the initial mausoleum? Or are they natural slopes? They have been.
Placed there. I mean, it's an open lawn area with several trees scattered throughout.
Okay. From a drainage perspective, this project would be classified as a minor project, correct?
That's correct.
Meaning you're not disturbing more than an acre of land, nor increasing by more a quarter acre of impervious coverage, right?
That's correct.
So you're not subject to the major development requirements, but you're still offering to install the church that is, looks like 5 dry wells?
Yes.
And those dry well systems will capture all of the runoff from the new building as well as sidewalks. So all of the new coverage will be effectively captured and directed to those dry wells?
Well, there is some sidewalk area in the back of the building that we're not capturing, but we're capturing.
A minor area.
Pardon?
A minor area of sidewalk?
But we're capturing additional existing
Okay.
sidewalk areas to compensate for that.
And the overflow pipes, if there was to be any overflow from the dry wells, those overflow pipes are directed, or they were relocated on your latest plans further, I guess, would it be to the north?
Further to the north, yes.
So further away from the golf course, further away from Avalon to the 28 side, is that the idea?
Definitely.
And any overflow would then travel down the slopes into that tributary of the Petersbrook? And then make its way off-site?
Yes.
And in your opinion, it will have no impact on the adjacent properties?
No, there shouldn't be any impact.
Okay. And I think your testimony, or Mr. Ligarano mentioned that you are meeting tomorrow with the folks next door to discuss potential remedies to a pre-existing issue that is not related to this development or to this proposal. That's correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And I can represent to the board that we've been doing that since last October.
Very good.
When the issue first came up.
Very good. One more question on drainage. You will provide, if this application's approved, an O&M manual spelling out the maintenance requirements of the dry wells?
Dry wells, yes, we will.
Right, okay. And we heard testimony, no exterior lighting is proposed?
It's my understanding that there is no exterior lighting.
And there are 7, I think your plan identified 7 trees to be removed?
There's 7 trees in total, yes.
And I understand that you will work with the board professionals on a plan to offer some replantings around the property?
Yes, we will.
Okay. Last question, utilities. No utilities for this use? Is that my understanding? No bathroom other than electrical? There's no new utilities? No new utilities proposed?
No new, no.
Right, okay. Very good, thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Jill, would it be,
Mr. Chairman, I have a question regarding your, okay, the parking spaces that you have will be enough for this addition, or how does that work? Like,
Well, you know, I think during funerals, let me back up. The drives throughout the majority of the site are about 18 feet wide, which allows for a vehicle to be parked and other vehicles to pass by freely. Out in front of the existing mausoleums, the driveways are much wider. They're about 30 feet. So any people stopping, visiting loved ones in the mausoleums have adequate places to park. Several times I've been out on the property, I've seen 1 or 2 vehicles only during the time I was there. And each one is just parking by the side of the road.
all right. Back to drainage. Maybe this is a good time to ask, as a condition of approval, you would stipulate that any changes that need to be made per Mr. Burr or any engineer for the township would be made on a condition of approval there?
comfortable with that.
Comfortable with that? All right. We're pretty reasonable here in Bridgewater.
We're fair. I think we also want to protect our neighbors. So it's comforting to hear that there is a meeting scheduled for tomorrow. I hope that that is a productive meeting and some of those existing concerns can be addressed. But as far as this proposal is concerned, I'm satisfied with the drainage plan that they've laid out.
Thank you very much. Paul.
Thank you. Just a few questions. I'll be
Go
quick.
for it.
Mr. Madsen, there appears to be a wall, it says a landscape wall. Is that a retaining wall to the east there of the proposed addition?
To the east, there actually are 2 retaining walls.
And they're tiered retaining walls? And then is there, adjacent to the sidewalk to the building, what is that? It says 42-inch high railing. Is that on top of a wall, or is that just a railing?
That's along the sidewalk area.
Just a handrail?
That's all it is, yes.
Okay, thank you. In regards to the landscaping, I think I noted in my memo that, or in our joint review memo, that there was not a landscaping plan provided. I know this building is set further back behind the other building, but with the 7 tree removal in mind, I'd be happy to work with the applicant to figure out some places that we could put some. I think the building closer to 28 has a number of pear trees that are scattered throughout the outside area. Something to that effect would probably be useful. As far as the street trees along 28, that comment was really out of, we have an opportunity to look at it. It is a requirement. There is just a black chain link fence. It was really supposed to be if it's feasible. So looking at the street width or the right-of-way, off of the right-of-way, the distance between the fence and then gravestones behind it is not large, so there might not be opportunity, but if there is opportunity, maybe it doesn't have to be at the 50-foot distance. I do think it would beautify the street view, but it's, again, I understand if it's not feasible.
Maybe this is something we could suggest. I'm very hesitant to demand on something that's been an ongoing.
Yeah, I think we agree to work with the town's professionals.
Great.
On a landscaping plan, being mindful of the caveat at the beginning.
Perfect.
We're not out to do the property. I'm sure we can come up with a reasonable plan for planting trees elsewhere.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's all I had.
All right, members of the public, questions on Mr. Madsen's testimony? Please. If you want to ask questions, you can put your name and your address on the record. And right now is the time for questions on the engineering testimony. At the very end, I'll let any member of the public speak as long as they want for or against this project.
Okay.
So your name?
Bill Hotz, H-O-T-Z.
EZ?
H-O-T-Z.
And your address?
339 Douglas Road, Far Hills, New Jersey. So I'm here on behalf of the Raritan Valley Country Club. I think visually and drainage-wise, we're the most impacted by the project. So our 2 primary concerns are drainage and visual aesthetics. The visual aesthetics, as you can imagine, the building's 18 feet tall, but there's approximately 10 feet of retaining wall.
We're not doing statements. I have to swear you in if we're
No, I want-
taking statements.
I'll be
It's
sworn
really
in.
a question for the engineer right
I want to know, okay. Can we screen the backside of the building? And it's not the building, it's the walls. So, we're going to see 10 feet of wall approximately. There'll be 2 4-foot tiers approximately.
When you
and
say
then
we can see, so
the Raritan Valley Country Club.
from the 5th hole, 'cause I've been on
The
there.
5th hole, yes.
Okay, so you're looking up.
You're looking up.
And you want the walls screened?
I think so. Yeah, I think that there's enough room to screen the bottom, from the bottom of the wall so that it breaks up the wall. As, you're never going to get another 30 feet, but breaks up the wall visual.
That's something you want to answer? Can it be screened?
Well, I have to say, I'm rather disappointed, sir, that you come tonight and raise this issue when we've been working with you since last fall, actually last summer. And we accommodated you on drainage, and this was never even mentioned.
I don't think
It's
that's a proper
mentioned now, though.
response.
Are you,
Context of why we're here.
Well, screening's not really an onerous request.
I'm
I have to just make my statement.
finding I'm a little bit shocked by that response, that they are shocked We are taking their drainage. The drainage is coming onto our property uncontrolled.
It sounds like they moved it once already.
They moved it north, and we appreciate it. They moved it away from the fifth green, but it's still coming down onto our property, and we're concerned about it. So, my question is that, is all of the existing building being directed into the dry wells?
The roofed area from the building.
Okay. Is any additional drainage area being directed into the dry wells from the existing building?
It's the sidewalk areas between the two mausoleums. That's being collected.
But my point is that, is there any additional drainage from the existing building? In other words, are there roof drains from the existing building being picked up now by those 3 dry wells, or by the 5 dry wells?
The dry wells are the new structure, as well as new sidewalk and some existing sidewalk areas.
Okay.
We're actually diverting, some of the runoff that would occur between the two buildings. We're capturing that and moving it further north.
So, I mean, they did move the discharge point further north, which we appreciate. But we're still catching all their drainage, whether it's a little bit to the north or not. So that was my only issue, is that I just wanted to make sure there wasn't additional drainage from the additional building, from the existing building directing into the back.
Understandable.
So there's not.
We are not diverting any other than the sidewalk area between the two mausoleums.
Okay. That's all.
All right, and then on the screening issue, it sounds like they're going to work with our planner and try and get things to the best of their ability screened. I know it's impossible to 100% screen it, but I think you're trying to protect an aesthetic that's visible from the fifth green and from the fifth.
Nobody's going to see it except us.
Sure.
Nobody's going to see that retaining wall except us.
The flip side of this is they also are providing inherently beneficial use to our community. We want to make sure that good neighbors, it goes both ways.
We're not asking for a lot. Just
Oh, I hear you. No,
and I feel, that it wasn't brought up. I think it's minimal, through arborvitae's, a few, trees is not unreasonable.
It sounds like the council, you're okay?
We'll work with the township landscaper to do what screening is necessary.
Great. All right. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Any other members of the public? All right. Your next witness.
Mr. John Barry, please.
I'm sorry, Bruce, did you have a question for this witness? It's fine. Okay.
John, by whom are you employed?
I'm a principal at the firm Higher Grohl and Associates.
Do you hold any particular licenses in the state of New Jersey?
I do. I'm a licensed professional planner, and I'm a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners.
Have you testified before boards as to similar nature of projects of similar character?
I have. Keep your distance, Mike. Yeah. Yes, I have many times. Most recently, I was in Summit last week, Asbury Park the week before, many occasions.
You are the gentleman as a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey.
All right. The board accepts him as an expert planner.
Thank you.
John, you prepared an exhibit?
I did. It's two-sided. What are we on, A4?
Yes. So, Mr. Barry, just describe A4 for the record, please.
Sure. This is a Google Earth aerial image. The aerial image is from August 1st, 2023. It was prepared by my office in advance of the original hearing date, so back in October 7th, 2024. I've marked it with today's date. And you can see with the red outline here, the area of the property in question that we're talking about this evening with the cemetery and its surrounding environs. Want to mark the other side? Okay, A5. And this is same dates, August 1st, 2023 image, prepared October 7th, 2024. This is a more zoomed in look at the existing mausoleum structures, the relative rough area of proposed development behind the existing northernmost mausoleum. And then you can see the fifth hole of the golf course. You can see some of the surrounding context that we've been discussing this evening.
Now, you're familiar with the project as you're describing,
I am, yes.
You familiar with the land use plan and zoning ordinance of the township as it applies to the project?
Yes, I am.
And based upon your expertise, your familiarity with the project, have you formed an opinion with respect to the relief which is being requested this evening?
I have, yes.
Please give your opinion to the board.
Sure. So we heard a little bit during the engineering testimony about the relief that's being sought. We're here this evening for a D3 conditional use variance. There are several conditional use standards for places of worship, the cemetery being an accessory to the place of worship in question here. The condition that we do not meet is related to the rear yard setback. The ordinance requires that in a zone, in this zone, the R40 zone, where there's a 75-foot required rear yard setback, that's doubled and is required to be 150 feet as part of the conditional use requirement. So we heard the testimony. The proposed setback to the rear property line, which is adjacent to the golf course, is 41.64 feet, as noted on the engineering plans and in the reports. And so the deviation that we're discussing this evening is that. Simultaneously, it's also a bulk variance for the zone, if we want to consider that separately, with the standard 75-foot setback. 41.64 does not comply. So as to the standard of proof for D3 variance, we look at the Coventry Square versus Westwood case as the landmark case dealing with that. First and foremost, we have a use that's been recognized by the courts as inherently promoting the public welfare with a place of worship. And then also for a D3 variance, the burden of proof is lower than if this were a use that weren't permitted at all in the zone. We're looking at what's being impacted by the deviation from the condition. Can the site still function effectively? Can the site still accommodate the use even though there is a departure from one of the conditions? So in this context, you've heard about some of the constraints on the property with limited places available to place the addition to the mausoleum in the overall context of the lot. The efforts made to mitigate any potential impacts through landscape modifications, screening, drainage, minimal impact to the overall intensity of the use on the site. You know, this is more space for future residents, but ultimately the day-to-day activity is not going to be changed. You're not going to have more employees. You're not going to have an increase in typical traffic volumes. And as you heard the testimony, and I witnessed this evening on the way over here, it's dark at night. There are no lights presently at the cemetery if you drive by, and there are none proposed as part of this application. So the overall impacts, we're really dealing with the setback to the neighbors, the visual impact that we heard just mentioned by the neighbor, and we've agreed to some reasonable conditions to mitigate that impact, which is really what the board looks for with both a conditional use variance and when dealing with an inherently beneficial use. So I think we've kind of come together this evening and addressed the issues that have been raised, and we'll do so moving forward. To the extent that we need to consider this also under a bulk variance, it would be a C2 variance in which the overall benefits of the project from a lens of zoning exceed the detriments. There are several purposes of zoning that are advanced, most notably the public welfare under Purpose A as an inherently beneficial use. We're promoting a desirable visual environment by matching the aesthetic of the existing building and maintaining the overall character of this portion of the site. And we're keeping the footprint of the site tucked behind generally the existing structures and leaving the vast majority of the open space open on the property while also providing additional landscaping to enhance the site as needed. With regard to the negative criteria, where we talk about a substantial detriment to the public good, and substantial again being the key because any change, any development will necessarily have some impact. We can't avoid that, but substantial detriment, overall, we're not seeing a major change here. The nature of the use is not changing. The overall operational patterns of the site are not changing. Stormwater mitigation is being provided, as the engineer discussed, and additional landscaping will help soften and mitigate any of the potential visual impacts. And then finally, with regard to the zoning ordinance and master plan, there's no substantial impairment of either here. The site is the use is conditionally permitted at this site in this zone. The use has been in this location, I believe, for nearly 150 years. Obviously, it's grown a bit over time, but this property has not been anything else in anyone's memory. So there's no particular master plan language that would be for or against this project, and so in that case, I see no impairment. So in conclusion, we have a pretty well put together application, in my opinion. We've discussed some of the neighbors' concerns and hope that we've been able to come up with mitigating solutions and meet our burden of proof.
All right, board questions for Mr. Berry. Board professionals.
I have no questions. Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Berry. I think he covered all the bases as far as the variance relief required, and I do agree that if the applicant is willing to agree to the condition of the landscape as to help mitigate and screen, it will help mitigate. And with a D3 variance, that's the criteria which the board has to.
Are you satisfied this is an inherently beneficial use? I know with the conditions that changed per town ordinance in 2010, this was
2011.
previously inherently beneficial, but after that change, maybe you could explain to the board just very briefly what happened in 2010, 2011 that made this kind of fall under the D3 characteristic.
Sure. And this is something that came up when the application initially came in for intake. We had to do a little bit of the history research to figure out, because they had come in before, why it was rising to the level of a D variance. And it really has to do with the ordinance change from 2011, which changed the conditions under the conditional use. One of those conditions being the setback and the doubling of the setback in residential zones, which if you don't meet a condition of the conditional use, you're a D3.
Had that change not happened, would they be here in front of this board?
They would not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Burr.
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Members of the public, questions on the planning testimony you've heard? All right, seeing none. Okay. All right, thank you very much. Rich, why don't you take us through the conditions?
Sure.
Before we open up deliberations.
Should there be a motion to approve? Conditions that we discussed would be that the applicant would provide a landscape plan and plant replacement trees per the ordinance to the satisfaction of the township planner and township engineer, would comply with the township engineer's requirements to control drainage, provide a buffer along the wall of the addition which faces the Raritan Valley Country Club, also to the satisfaction of the township planner. And that's all.
All right, thank you. Members of the public that would like to speak for or against the case, now is your time to approach, make your comments heard. You're good? All right, thank you. All right, we're going to open up deliberations. Why don't we send it down to Mr. Gavitt? Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, to your point, there's an inherent beneficial use here. To be at risk of sounding crass, people have to go somewhere. It seems pretty minimal as far as variances. I'd be in favor of it.
Would you vote in favor?
Yes, I would be in favor of it.
Mr. Goulet?
I would agree as well. I think we have a project in which a need has been demonstrated, and this will fulfill. We've had an existing use, which this is consistent with, and the applicant is willing to work with its neighbors in a productive way to provide the visual screening that's necessary, so I would support this project as well.
I'll agree with the same. If the drainage and, visual impacts are addressed, I have no concern, so I would support it.
Mr. Bongiorno?
I would support it. Nice presentation, brief, concise. I'm in favor of it.
Thank you. Mrs. Amin, your thoughts, please.
I'm in favor of approving.
All right, thank you. Mr. Sweeney?
I have nothing really to add. I agree with everything that's been said, and critically, I think that the site will remain appropriate for its existing use once these changes are made, given the landscape buffering and the stormwater mitigation.
Thank you. Mr. Fresco?
Yeah, I concur with the board. I mean, it comes down to three things, right? The drainage, I'd like to see the trees, you feel strongly about trees in our town, so I think that's important. And accommodating his neighbors, I think it's great, so I wish you good luck. I support it.
Thank you. Mr. Vesio?
For the application, I see no meaningful detrimental impacts to the community. Overall beneficial use shouldn't make traffic any worse. I'm for it, thank you.
All right, thank you. I too am in favor. The fifth hole happens to be my favorite. When it comes down to, screening, I hope you can do everything you can to make sure that Raritan Valley and the neighbors are protected, and I appreciate everything, all the meetings you've already had with them. All right, great. I'm going to vote in favor. And with that, Rich, if you have nothing else, I'm going to seek a motion to approve from the board, please.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Amin. Do I have a second, please?
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Sweeney was the second. Get a roll call vote, please.
Chairman Foose.
Yes.
Mr. Wadley. I'm sorry, Mrs. Amin.
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney.
Yes.
Mr. Fresco.
Yes.
Mr. Bongiorno.
Yes.
Mr. Seacat.
Yes.
And Mr. Kulak.
Yes.
Right. Well done. 60 minutes. Great job. And thank you, members of the public, for coming out. All right, we're going to go to our next meeting. Nancy, help me out here. Our next meeting.
Meeting is March 11th.
That's it.
And as Mr. Aller reviewed earlier, we have the Starbucks continuation scheduled, expecting them to proceed. And we have, as was announced earlier, the 821 Bridgewater LLC application. And that is it for 311.
All right, so our next meeting, March 11th, in this room, 7 p.m. We have Starbucks and the continuation of 821. With that,
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Before you kick us out of here, I have a question probably for council, and it's about the letter we got from the police department with respect to the 821 project. Are there any limitations on what can be taken from that letter and referred to during the public hearing? I know, because I guess the guy that wrote it's not going to be around, I'm assuming, for cross-examination.
The board could ask him to be here to testify as to his report. The applicant could do the same. The applicant could subpoena him to come in and question him about the report, but the report's in the record.
Suppose he's not here. Can we refer to his letter? Can we, for example, read sections of his letter?
You can, for the purpose of getting some reply from the applicant, but if you think there's something in that letter that you want some further information from, we should have the officer here to testify to it.
is that something you'd like to see?
I'm perfectly content with being able to refer to the letter and reading parts of the letter to the public.
Since our Land Rover case, the chief he's been asked by the administration to review every land use case, planning board and zoning board, which I think is a good thing, and that led to that letter. So if the applicant wants to cross-examine that officer, by all means, I think that's their right. And if he says we can go look at the letter, I thought it was a good letter.
Yeah, I thought it was a great letter. But, yeah, that's wonderful. In fact, one of the things that struck me about the letter was that we got it. I mean, in the, 15 years I've been on this board, I don't think I ever saw communication from the police department about any application we've considered. So that was wonderful. Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, a motion to adjourn, please.
Oh, no, I have a question.
Mrs. Amin.
You know, on the list, we have 3 applications on one evening. There be enough time to hear?
Yeah.
They're expecting that Belly Holdings may not go forward. So if Belly Holdings does not go forward, 821 Bridgewater is the backup plan.
Yeah, Mrs. Amin, we're forced to schedule so many people on one night because the lawyers like to cancel at the last minute, and I hate having these meetings scheduled and having your time earmarked, and then have someone cancel, and then we cancel the meeting. We have so many cases. So we're gonna, like hotels, they double book, we're double booking applications.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I can answer Ms. Amin's question. The Belly Holdings, again, that one is tentatively scheduled to adjourn, but I have a tentative date as well. That'll go to May. It's been an informal request up to today, but I did communicate with the attorney again and expecting formal request to come, which is why I didn't announce it.
Okay? Thank you. All right, we had a request to adjourn from Mr. Bongiorno. Second? Second, going once. Mr. Sweeney, thank you. Good night, everyone.
A lot of friends, they bug me every year to join.